You're listening to The Score, a podcast for Valley sports enthusiasts.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Score podcast. We're happy to be joined by former Major League umpire John Hirschbeck, who joins us. John was a longtime Major League umpire, has been retired now for 9 years. John, thanks for joining us, and what are you doing in retirement?
It's a pleasure, Dana. Anytime to see you, it's a pleasure. I just like living the dream, I say. You know, I hunt, fish, golf, and do what my wife tells me, not in that order. But I'm enjoying life after all those years of being on the road, and so I'm having a good time.
I mean, close to 40 years, 41, right?
41 years. I started when I was 21, senior at college when I went to umpiring school. And then I was 28, so 7 in the minors. 28, I got to the big leagues, and then retired at 62, so 34.
You miss it?
No, sir. I really don't. But I always have to say this story. I thank God every morning that I did what I did, because everything I have in life is because of baseball. From living in Youngstown, meeting my wife in Puerto Rico of all places, you know, and then got married 2 years later and coming back here. So I still thank God every morning. But it was just 41 years. I was 62 at the time, and I said, okay, time to go home.
You're not a Youngstown guy, though. I mean,
no, originally Connecticut.
Yeah, so you've been here a while, but you're a Connecticut guy.
Originally Connecticut, but I'm a Youngstown guy. Don't say it that way. I love it here. I could be like run for something here, and just because I love this area, I love the town, I love the people, just everything about it. I would never leave here.
So you had a stellar career. Your final game was Game 7 of the 2016 World Series in Cleveland, and I know we've talked before. You wanted to end your career there, right?
Well, I didn't really have the choice. I think Joe Torre at the time was my boss, and he knew I was retiring, and they gave me the World Series, my 5th and last World Series. And of course, Cleveland had to win to get there. It could have.
Well, yeah.
How'd they know? Because they announced it, you know, halfway through the playoffs.
Sure.
Who the World Series umpires were going to be.
So let's just go back to that night. We'll cover a lot of things throughout the next 25 minutes or so. But Game 7, Rajai Davis ties the game, and then the rain comes. And that was your decision, right?
Yes, it was. Along with the great groundskeeper, you know, everyone knows, you look on your phone, you get maps and everything. So I started at second base. Game 7, I was back at second base. So he would come out every half inning and give me signals in between innings. So I'm trying to watch the game and looking over at him, you know, by the third base dugout. And at one point he came out and he said, John, when it starts, it's going to come really hard. And then there'll be a break. It'll stop as quick as it starts. But if you don't have the tarps on, you're not going to keep the field. So now I go back and everything's going through my mind. I mean, we're in 10th inning then, I think. And I'm thinking, like, if I lose this field, you know, here we are in Game 7 of the World Series. We have to come back at some point tomorrow. You know, that's very anticlimactic for a World Series. And yet, on top of it, you don't want a shortstop to field a routine ground ball and slip or throw the ball away, and that decides the World Series. So all that stuff was going through my mind. And so I had the third and first base umpires tell each of the managers, don't go crazy. I'm gonna pull it quick, pull the tarp on quick, and there'll be a short, you know, minute. Didn't know it was going to be 17 minutes.
Sure.
And then we're gonna have a break, and then it's in Toledo, and when it starts back up, it's going to rain the rest of the night. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, so that was why I did what I did. So we pulled it. Nobody yelled and screamed because they knew it was going on. And then we got back. And literally, there has never in the history of baseball been a 17-minute rain delay.
I mean, that's a tough decision. Game 7, tie game. Did you converse with your umpires, you know, about it, or did you just have to tell them? Or
Joe West was on the right field line. I let him know what was going on, and I can't remember who was on the wings, first and third, but I said, I got to do this. I said, it's the only chance we have of getting this game in. And, you know, if it had gone 14, 15 innings, it would have started raining again. But that was out of my control.
And plus, it was your last game. You wanted to get it over, right?
Yeah, well, I went in during the rain delay. I went down the steps into our room during the rain delay, and Joe Torre knew I was, you know, that was my last game. And whatever it was, the I think by then it was like November 1st or
Yeah,
something.
it was in November,
He
exactly.
said, well, you're not going to retire today. It's going to be tomorrow. I said, that's good to know.
How much does TV dictate something like that, or nothing?
In that, nothing. But I'm enough of a hardhead that I wasn't going to let that bother me. They weren't going to say, well, we need 2 minutes to come back from commercials. And to this day, I don't know what Rob Manfred, the commissioner, thought about it. But I let Joe know what was going on. And that's really all I cared about, that he knew. And I was just going to start it. The minute they were off, we were revving it up. And I went out to the Indians pitcher and I said, listen, I am not going to rush you. I said, you take as much time as you want to get ready to start this. And I'll never forget it. He goes, Hershey, I'm as good as I'm ever going to get. I said, okay, here we go.
And the managers were okay with that, Francona and
Yeah.
name
Because they
escapes
saw me go out to the mound and talk to him.
And you're in communication with, the groundskeeper and that sort of
Constantly. He was right by my side the whole time.
So, John, 41 years, 34 in the big leagues.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy most about it? I mean, as you got older, I know, but in your younger days?
In my younger days, that's a good question. I haven't been asked that one before, I don't think. I think I just loved the job so much. I literally loved what I was doing. And I remember when I started in college, my dad saying, of all the things, you listen to from your parents, and my dad saying, do what you love so that every day you get up and you'll be happy. And I was fortunate enough, and how I started in umpiring is a crazy story, but fortunate enough that I loved what I did. And right down to the very end, and I told you earlier before we started that after my son Michael passed away in 2014, and I was 60 at the time, it was like, okay, I kind of have had enough.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be home. I want to be with my wife. I want to be here in Youngstown. And I decided to stay an extra year because I didn't want to leave that way.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that I'd come to know in all those years, knowing his son passed away, I want to go back on the field. And then I got to 62, and I said, well, if I do one more, I'll max out on everything. So, if God forbid something happens to me, my wife would get it.
And Michael was a big baseball fan, and I
Huge.
know he wanted you to go out that way as well.
He would have.
I mean,
yes.
he was like members of teams, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He had a Pittsburgh uniform. He had an Indians uniform, and got very, very close with a lot of people. They loved Michael because he had disabilities, but when he was around a ballpark, he knew what to do, what to say. Of course, I coached him early, and the appreciation of being able to put on a major league uniform and be on a ball field. He just knew what to do, and they could see in his face that when he was out there, he wasn't there for autographs or hanging out with players. He was there to bat boy and be efficient and do a great job, and he did. That's why people like Terry Francona, they were on speed dial with each other.
And there's some stories. I know Gardenhire was also on speed. And there's a story about that, right?
I got a good one. Is it time to tell it
Yeah,
right now?
absolutely.
Okay. Well, Ron Gardenhire and Michael got very, very close. One night, well, let's say he was in his 20s then, started bat boying probably when he was 10, spring training and everything. And he was in his early 20s, and one night his door was shut, and I went by his room, and I knocked on the door, and I opened it, and I go, who are you talking to? He goes, Gardy. I said, I told you not to call these people that late at night. He goes, holds the phone. He goes, Dad, he called me. So I said, okay. But the story is I was working in Minnesota, like a weekday, Wednesday afternoon day game, kids' day. And there had to be 42,000 screaming kids. It never stops, And I was at second base, and there was a short fly ball to left field. So because I'm in the middle of the infield, with a runner on first, it's the third base umpire's job to go out and check to see if it's catch, no catch. So James Hoy runs out, and whatever way he called it, catch or no catch, it was against the Twins. So things get settled down, and Gardenhire comes running out, and he comes by me, and he goes, John, he used to call me Johnny. Johnny, he's going to have to run me on this one. I said, well, go talk to him, not me. So he goes out to short left field, and he's arguing with James. And he comes back in, he goes, he won't run me. I go, why? You know what to say. He goes, he won't run me. I said, if you think I'm going to do it, you're out of your mind. And he goes, you got to do it, John. Please, for me. He said, look at all these kids here, all these people here today. It's on TV, and most of all, my team saw what happened. I have to get run. I said, no. Do you have any idea what my son Michael's going to say to me if I throw you out of a game? And I always got along great
Sure.
with him, just mutual respect. And so he says the magic word to, and I said, all right, you really got to go. That's fine. So I run him. And he goes, thank you. Now you know what I'm going to do? I said, no. He said, I'm going to my office, picking up my phone, and calling Michael and tell him just what the hell you did to me. And then he puts that guarded grin we used to call on his face and turns around and walks back.
I mean, speaking of ejections, you had 97 in your major league career.
Yeah, I had a couple more because when I was young, when we were on the West Coast,
Okay.
and you had to write them up by hand and send them in by mail and walk to the post office. So I let a couple, ran them, so I got rid of the problem. But that was a little bit over 100.
So when it comes to that, there are magic words. There is.
You learn in umpire school. Now, I don't know what they're teaching nowadays.
Okay.
But when I went in 76, anything with you or your, whatever came after that, except if they said are the greatest umpire I've ever seen, anything else was cause for ejection. Or showing you up, waving their hat at you, kicking dirt, that, of course.
Most enjoyable place to work a game.
Well, I always say Pittsburgh and Cleveland because I could commute from home. I like Seattle because the weather was nice, and if it did rain, they have like a garage door that went over the top. It was beautiful. But I really loved going to Fenway Park in Boston. There were certain towns like Detroit that was just like, okay, it's a work town. Go back after the game. You have a couple beers with the guys and get flights and things done that you had to catch up on. Not much fun.
During the day, most games are at night, except for weekends or whatever. What did you guys do during the day?
Well, my routine was normally to get up, go down and have breakfast. I stayed at a lot of Hyatts, so I go down and have breakfast, go back to the room, hang out for a little bit, call my wife, make some phone calls, and then go down and work out and spend time in their gym, working out. And then go upstairs and just walk around a little bit in the afternoon. That's why when COVID hit, I thought, like, what do you do now? Or with all the violence going on in our country, how do you walk around Seattle? How do you walk around New York and feel safe? So, again, I got out at the right time.
And then you guys would get to the ballpark a couple hours in advance?
A couple hours, usually. I always liked that time in the locker room because it was like no one could bother you. TV was on. I'd read hunting magazines or, just hang out in the locker room. A lot of guys would play cards. And then go to work. And
now you had the same crew for the entire year, except for vacations.
They would change. Excuse me. Almost every year, but I kept a lot of the same guys each year.
And then travel. Talk about the travel. I mean, you guys had to travel on your own.
On our own. It was first class, but there was a travel agency that Major League Baseball ended up buying. They were in New Jersey, and you had a girl, same person, she got to know you and know your wife and your kids and like where I wanted to sit. So when I was working with Wally Bell, she always knew, put Wally by the window, put me on the aisle. And she would set up our flights, and then she knew just from getting to know me, like when I was going to go home. Now, if I'm in Kansas City going to Anaheim, I'm not trying to get home for an off day.
Sure.
But she was really good. She sent a printout for the month or 3 weeks, and then I just go over it, maybe make a change here or there.
So working in Cleveland and Pittsburgh, you were able to go home each night, go back to the
night.
ballpark, and then. So there were times, John, you would finish a series, be in another city the same night or the next night, working a game, right?
Correct. Oh yeah. If I was in Sunday in Cleveland, let's say, I would still drive home, have dinner, cook out, and then get up early Monday morning and fly to Baltimore.
Fly to your next. Did they try to keep that regional for you guys a little bit?
They try, but they're not real good at it. You might be up in the Northeast a little bit, but then all of a sudden you go to Minneapolis, or then from there down to Kansas City. There were certain routes you go, what are they doing? But
some historical moments for you. David Wells' perfect game in 1998, Barry Bonds' 756 homer in August of 2009, and then Roy Halladay's playoff no-hitter in 2010. Just a couple. What stands out the most?
Roy Halladay's no-hitter, definitely by far. The other ones, I was in the right place at the right time. Mariano Rivera, who knows you're going to be in Yankee Stadium, and it's that perfect time when they need a save, and he comes in. So I was there for the save record. But Roy Halladay's was the really, really
Cream of the
special.
crop.
Yeah.
Did you know it's a no-hitter? Do you guys know it's
Not
a
until the fifth inning. Fifth inning, I looked up and I went, holy crap. And I'm not real superstitious, but I was like tossing the ball. Usually we just roll it out, And for some reason, he went by me in the fifth, and I tossed the ball to him. And he would jump in the air like a step and catch it and not step on the foul line. So I started doing that the rest of the game with him. I've never actually told that story before. And I just kept saying to myself, listen, keep doing what you're doing. Don't change anything. Keep your strike zone. And my advice to young umpires is when the volume in the stadium goes up and you hear that noise and everything and the pressure of the situation, you have to make your internal volume go down. It's very important to do that.
And you have to keep focused.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
7 years in the minors, your brother Mark was also an umpire, so you guys were the first brother combinations.
Yeah.
I don't think you worked with him because you guys one was AL, one was NL.
At the time. The only time we ever worked together was in I think 2000 when the leagues joined together. They put us all under Major League Baseball. And we worked Seattle and New York Yankees, LCS together.
Hardest pitcher that you, behind the plate, the most finesse pitcher, best pitcher you saw, or was behind the plate for?
Well, the hardest ever, I think, was Randy Johnson. He was work. And for Atlanta, his name's escaping me right now. The Atlanta. Maddox.
Greg Maddox.
Greg Maddox, sorry. Easiest. I mean, easy if you like to call strikes like I did. And you just maintained that strike zone, and he knew if he got a little crazy and went too far, you were going to say ball, and he'd bring it in a little bit. He was that good.
That accurate. They called you a pitcher's umpire because you wanted to call the strikes, like you said.
Set the pace early in the game. An old-time umpire, when I was young, said, don't forget, when that pitcher, you're a little bit nervous, you're walking on the field to work the plate, so's that pitcher. So he said, try and call strikes and get him in his groove, and get the hitters a little bit behind so they're swinging and get the game moving. That's the mentality I kept throughout my whole career.
The game today, last game you went to as a retired umpire, have you gone to games?
I went 2 years ago with a dear friend of mine, Anthony Gentile, and he called and he says, I got our company's tickets. They're 2 rows behind the Yankees because he's a diehard Yankee fan. I said, no, Anthony, thanks, but no. He said, it's a day game. I said, no, I'm still. He goes, I'm bringing my grandson, his best friend. I said, all right, you got me, I'll go. So I set it up big for him. I mean, from where we parked to meeting Terry Francona, going up, went in the umpire's room, went out, saw Tom Hamilton, and it was fun. It was fun.
So,
but that was enough.
That's enough. I mean, it's like you see it on TV, I'm sure, and that's good enough for you?
Yeah, and I really don't watch that much on TV. I did what I did when I did it. I loved what I did, and when I was done, it's like I'm done. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but to sit down and I'll watch Ohio State every game.
Sure.
But other than that, I watch golf almost every weekend.
Well, you play golf. You play golf too.
My wife will say you're watching golf again, but she likes to watch it too.
And again, but your favorite manager.
My favorite manager of all time. Hit me with some new ones here. I had a lot of respect for Joe Torre and the way he can. Now, when he was younger, he was a crazy guy. Mm-hmm. But as he got older, when I had him with the Yankees, in the 90s and all, we never had an argument because I just looked at him more like a father figure. Like I'm not gonna argue with him, and he didn't argue with me. Terry Francona, because he's like family to us. He's gotten to be like family to us. Ron Gardner, the ones that my son loved, only because I saw the way they treated him.
And I was going to say, you do have a special bond with Francona, don't you?
Yes, yeah, our family does.
Are you surprised he's managing again?
I am. I was shocked.
Did you talk to him? I mean,
I talked to him. During the winter, and I said, Terry, we're going to do a golf outing again because it's hard to get somebody that will draw people for a dinner. And he said, John, I'll do it absolutely. And then I was at a golf course last summer, and one of the starters said, hey, did you hear Francona got a job? I went, what? Yeah. And that's how I found it. I went, I looked on my phone. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Speaking of golf outings and the Magic of Michael Foundation, just explain a little bit about that in memory of your son Michael.
We did it, and we still have enough money that we continue to do certain things that we had. Golf outings are tough, and I just coming through like 2 daughters getting married in 3 years, and 3 grandchildren in the next 3 years, and it's like planning a wedding times 2 between the golf outing and the dinner. So we've done other things to raise money here and there, and contributions, but we also we still do Go Baby Go, which we just did a few weeks ago, where we buy cars. They're as bigger than this table, and we have MCCTC. We have a crew that comes in Friday. We did 23 children this year. They're all under the age of 5. Most of them cannot walk on their own. So we put the cars together, we wire them, and then on Saturday morning when the families come in, and the parents, the grandparents, siblings, and they come in at scheduled times, and then we have a company there out of Akron that sets up each car for that child's needs. So if they need oxygen, there's a place for oxygen. If they're going to maybe not control their head right, there's bumpers. So it's a fun thing. We've done 180 cars now in the 8 years that it's been going on. And then the other thing is Akron Children's Hospital.
Yep.
We do the Christmas thing with Santa Claus and all, and we buy, Denise does it, but she buys for the entire family, siblings, that child and these are all children that are going to die.
Sure. The Magic of Michael Foundation, though, was established when Michael passed away. And it's to raise money for that. And I know your family was very much in favor of doing that.
Yes.
Well,
after Michael passed, a lot of his friends, Steve Rowan, who's the principal now at South Range, and those are guys that he went every opening day with, and Frank DeMaine, who was a Poland policeman.
Sure.
But anyway, that group, and I don't know how I got like 6 tickets every year for opening day. I pulled it off though. And so they came to us and they said, we want to do something, keep Michael's memory alive. And our motto is helping family face the curveballs of life. So there are kids with illnesses and kids in the inner city that don't have a whole lot. So we've done a lot of different programs over the years, and it's a favorite thing to do. And like I said, we're looking now for maybe other ways to raise money, because a golf outing doesn't really, unless you have the dinner.
Sure.
And again, trying to get somebody in baseball that's known enough, is difficult.
And you were fortunate over the years because Francona came down, Jim Leland was there, Torrey came down.
Joe Torrey one year. We've been very lucky.
And
Sean Casey's my reliable out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Sean, and you and Sean are close. I watched a podcast with him and you, and he's had some great stories and that sort of. MagicofMichael.com, right?
MagicofMichael.com. Yep.
And
people read the stories too. When our son John passed away, Lisa Pollock wrote for the Baltimore Sun, and she wrote kind of like a life story, and she ended up winning the Pulitzer Prize for it. And so we've done a lot. We try and keep it out there. We'll never stop doing those two things I talked about, and we've never said no to anyone that's come to us with a child with disabilities. So just keep doing what we can.
And certainly that is a great foundation.
Thanks,
and certainly it's a worthwhile cause. Your most prized possession at home, what is it?
You would think I'd say my World Series rings or All-Star rings.
You didn't even wear them.
No, I didn't. I got to tell you, got a couple minutes? I can tell a story.
Yeah.
It is hanging. We don't have a lot of baseball memorabilia in the house. The only place we have it is when you can walk out downstairs.
Sure.
And most of it has to do with Michael.
Sure.
But I have a piece of cardboard that's been framed. And in '95, I was leaving with the family, my first World Series, and we're backing out of the driveway to go to Pittsburgh Airport to fly to Atlanta. And it was in the papers here, the Vindicator, that I was going to start at third base and go second, first plate in Cleveland. And so I'm pulling out, and it was early, like 7 in the morning. And my trash man used to come like at 4 in the morning. I never saw him, didn't know who they were or anything. So I'm backing out, and the trash can's there, and I see a piece of cardboard sticking out. And I stopped, and I got out, and I took it out, and I looked at it. It said, John, Good luck at the show. We'll be watching you. P.S. Lofton loves to steal third. And I kept that. I mean, I still, to this day, it's the ink is fading a little bit and everything. I forget they did it like at 5 a.m. in front of my house. And so I started third, and first inning, Kenny Lofton gets up and gets a base hit. So he's on first. Next hitter is Carlos Baerga. Hit and run. So Lofton takes off. Baerga perfectly hits it behind him to second base. They have no chance. So now there's one out in the World Series, top of the first inning. And I'm at third, and I look over and I said, with his speed, there's no way he's going to try and steal third. He'll score on anything to the outfield. And I said, my trash man, just in case, let me take a step closer to third base. And first pitch to the third hitter, I said in my mind, like, holy crap, he's running. And I'm pretty much right in the position I should be in. And he steals in, he slides in, and he goes with his left hand. At the last second, he pulls his left hand back and sticks it, remember, he started that basically. Yeah. Puts his right hand. And the next day in the Sporting News, you could see a picture of Chipper Jones, like holding the glove, looking up at me, and Kenny with his hand in there, looking at me. And I'm making a call. And you could see my right arm is a little bit higher, like I was going to call him out. At the last second, I called him safe and got the call right. And the next winter, we used to take our physicals. And after that was Arizona, but we would take our physicals locally. And I'm leaving like early in the morning, 5, to go downtown here to a doctor's office, take our physical. And the trash companies coming down the street, and they blinked their high beams, and I blinked mine, and we got out, and this was like in January, before spring training, and we got out, and we're in the middle of the street hugging each other. I said, you guys saved me. They said, well, you made us heroes.
That's outstanding. The state of the game now, John. I know you don't go to many games or watch, but from what you know, the state of baseball right now with replay and challenges and all this stuff.
Okay. It's messed up. I thank God I got out when I did, but everyone wants everything nowadays to be so perfect. What happened when your dad taught you with 2 strikes, make sure you're swinging. Don't let the umpire call you out. And I understand that the money and everything is so important, and their salaries, and they got, but it's just too much nowadays. I think for certain things, it's good to have it there. But, and again, I always said this back when I was union president from like 2000 to 2009, I said, it's just getting crazier because they opened Pandora's box. It's going to keep coming and coming and coming, and it's never stopped. It's never stopped.
It may not stop.
It's not going to stop. It's going to, even to where maybe they don't have plate umpires anymore someday.
Yeah, I was going to say the robots are next, and I know,
Yeah, they try and redefine things like what is a check swing. It wasn't good enough for, in my judgment, if I thought he offered at the pitch, then I called it a strike. And then we started to go for appeals on the corners, the open side of the hitter. And then now it's tapping on their head in spring training to have pitches checked.
Manager or player who kind of got into your grill a little bit that you're like, okay, you're done, you're out.
People always say, what's it like? They're always yelling at me. I said, no, they don't yell at me. Hardly at all. There might be a situation like the Ron Gardenhire. People thought that day, he was screaming at Hirschbeck and he ran him. But if they know that, and I don't mean this in a cocky way, the best compliment is he's a good guy, but don't mess with him.
Yeah.
And that's the way I tried to be. I try to get along with everybody. Barry Bonds is a perfect example. He might go by one day, I'm at third and he's going out to left, and I say, hey, Barry, how you doing? And he'll say, hey, John, how you doing? The next day, at second, I see him, and he goes, and he just nods his head. Doesn't make him a bad guy.
Sure.
Maybe he's got other things going on in his life. And I always said, in my years, I could name on less than one hand the bad people.
In baseball.
The Albert Bells, the Milton Bradleys, the guys that you say, why aren't they in prison?
Yeah.
But because somebody's grumpy doesn't make them a bad guy.
Right.
And I just went about my job and, hustled, showed up on time, and cared, and they knew I cared, to get things right.
Would you do it again?
Same place and time back then, in a New York second. I met Denise, in Puerto Rico. I was doing winter ball my second year down there and had the greatest times. And I met her. She had just got out of training school with the airlines. They sent her class there for 6 months. And yeah, I met her at a party. Guy sitting next to me, he goes, "That's you, bud, right there." She walked in later at night. He goes, "That true story." God, as I'm sitting here, he goes, "That's you, bud." He was from Mark Johnson from Kentucky. He goes, "That's the girl you're going to marry." And 2 years later, we got married and then had our first child. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything. No.
Last question, advice to anybody who wants to do what you did.
I would suggest if you have that love, go to umpiring school, learn the right way to do it. And nowadays, for the turnover and the difficulty of getting to the big leagues, like they said to me too, but I still want to do it, but do high school ball and do college ball. You have a family or you have some kind of a career or profession, work during the week and leave on Friday, go to a college and you umpire, usually Saturday doubleheader, Sunday a game, and you'll make more money than I did when I got married in AAA.
Yeah, you were making $5 a game when you were first started.
Oh,
right?
when I first started, Little League, yeah.
John Hirschbeck, we appreciate the time today.
Are we done already?
It's yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's been fun. 41 years, Major League umpire from Connecticut. You know what Connecticut is known for, right?
Tell me.
ESPN.
Oh yeah, I knew that. That's right in the town, New Britain, where I went to college.
Central Connecticut States,
Connecticut, yeah.
And
Like I told you earlier, I couldn't get in UConn. I wasn't smart enough.
you get back up there, right? Once in a while.
Yes, yeah. My dad passed a few years ago. My mom's still alive. My brothers, my sister, everyone still lives there. Nieces and nephews. So once in a while, I get back there.
Great insight. Awesome to have you here.
It's always a pleasure to see you, buddy.
Appreciate it. John Hirschbeck, the guest today on The Score. Reminder, you can check all of our podcasts where you listen and watch podcasts.